Most people don't speak the way they want to. They either say too much and lose the point, or say too little and regret it later. And deep down, they know they could do better, but they don't know where to start. If you've ever walked away from a conversation thinking, "I should have said that differently," you're not alone. Being articulate is not about sounding perfect. It's about saying what you really mean, clearly, calmly, and confidently. In this video, we'll break it down in a way that actually works in real life. You'll learn how to stop overthinking when you talk, how to make your words match your thoughts, and how to speak in a way that makes people pay attention. No fluff, no fake confidence, just real improvement. If you want to sound better, feel stronger, and speak with purpose, this is for you. Let's get into it. Chapter 1. Speak your thoughts out loud. To hear your voice. You want to know how to be more articulate? Start by saying what's on your mind. Say it out loud, not in your head, not just thinking about it. Say it out loud so you can hear it, because until you hear your own voice, you don't know how you sound. You think you do. But the truth is, most people walk around never realizing how unclear they are. They believe they're making sense, but no one around them really understands what they mean. That's a problem, and it's a fixable one. The first step is to make your thoughts real. You make them real by speaking them. You have an idea? Say it. You have something to explain? Say it. Not just once, over and over. Because the first time, you'll stumble. The second time, you'll adjust. The third time, it'll start to come together. And the more you speak your thoughts out loud, the clearer they become, not just to others, but to you. Most people struggle to speak with confidence because they don't know how their words sound when they come out. They think they're being direct. They think they're being sharp. But when you listen back, you hear hesitation, you hear fillers, you hear a tone that doesn't match the message. That's why speaking out loud is the training ground. It's the workout. Just like lifting weights builds muscle, speaking your thoughts out loud builds clarity. You don't need an audience to start. You need a mirror. You need your room. You need the morning hours or the quiet moments before bed. That's where the real work begins. Speak what's on your mind. Hear the sound of your own voice. Hear where it wavers. Hear where it trails off. Pay attention. Your voice tells the story of your confidence, your beliefs, and your preparation. If you ignore it, you miss your greatest tool. When I first started giving speeches, I didn't sound the way I wanted to sound. I wasn't clear. I wasn't sharp. I wasn't strong. But I didn't wait to become a better speaker before I started speaking. I started speaking, and through that, I became better. I spoke in hotel rooms before anyone arrived. I spoke on long walks with no one listening. I spoke my ideas out loud just to hear what they sounded like. I shaped my mind by shaping my words, and I shaped my words by speaking them out loud. Here's what happens when you do that. You start to notice patterns. You notice which words you fall back on too often. You notice which sentences make you sound unsure, and you start fixing them, not by thinking harder, but by hearing yourself. You replace weak words with stronger ones. You remove the unnecessary. You build rhythm. You build tone. And eventually, you build power. This isn't about being fancy. This is about being clear. Clarity is confidence. When you speak clearly, people follow you. They trust you. They understand you. But clarity doesn't come from silence. It comes from practice. And real practice means using your voice. Not just reading, Not just thinking, speaking. There's a connection between the way you speak and the way you live. If your words are uncertain, your life will feel uncertain. If your voice is small, your presence will shrink. But when you raise your voice, when you speak your thoughts with intention, everything about you grows. Your posture changes. Your energy shifts. Your mindset strengthens. People often ask, how do I speak more clearly? I say, you speak more. Not in front of people right away, not on a stage, but in your everyday life. Explain things out loud. Talk through problems. Break down your ideas with your voice. If it's messy, clean it up by doing it again. If it's confusing, do it slower. And if it's weak, speak it stronger next time. Every day gives you moments to train. You're walking to the store, talk about something out loud. You're making coffee, explain what you're thinking. You're sitting at your desk, speak your goals like they matter. Most people wait for the perfect moment to start improving. The perfect moment never comes. You create it by taking action now. You improve by doing the work no one sees. And don't judge yourself in the beginning. That's another mistake people make. They say something out loud, hear it sound awkward, and stop. Don't stop. Awkward means you're learning. Awkward means you're growing. You don't lift a weight once and expect a strong body. You don't speak once and expect a strong voice. You train it. Every day, this habit changes everything. You'll walk into conversations already knowing how to explain yourself. You'll walk into interviews already knowing how to explain your experience. You'll walk into opportunities already sounding like someone who belongs there, and not because you were born that way, but because you built it. The moment you hear your own voice, you start taking control of it. You start adjusting it. You start improving it. And when your voice improves, your life improves. People take you more seriously. They listen longer. They feel your words, because they're no longer guessing what you're trying to say. You're showing them. Directly, confidently, clearly. You've got ideas. You've got thoughts that matter. But if they stay in your head, they don't help anyone. Not even you. You have to speak them. You have to give them life. And once you do, you'll find out something powerful. You'll realize you had the ability the whole time. You just needed to practice it in the real world. You just needed to hear it, to believe it. So today, start with one thing, one idea, one thought. Say it out loud, then say it again, then say it better, and tomorrow do it again. That's how you become articulate. That's how you build confidence. That's how you move from being unsure to being heard. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for the perfect time. Use the voice you have and start building the one you want. That's how it works. Speak it out loud. Hear it. Fix it. Say it better. Over time, you'll look back and be amazed at how far you've come, not because you hoped for it, but because you worked for it. And it all started with one simple choice: to speak your thoughts out loud and take control of your voice. Chapter 2. Build real confidence by talking in real situations. If you want to speak confidently, you need to stop practicing in your head and start practicing in the real world. That's where it matters. That's where it counts. Too many people sit back and wait until they feel ready. They rehearse quietly. They write things down. They imagine how the conversation might go. But they never speak in the situations that actually shape their confidence. Real confidence doesn't come from hiding behind preparation. It comes from showing up and using your voice in everyday life. You can't improve by avoiding the discomfort. You improve by walking into it. You don't become more articulate by talking to yourself in your mind. You become more articulate by using your voice when it matters. That means talking to the cashier, talking to your co-worker, talking to your family, talking to the people in your life without shrinking back. You've got to stop choosing silence because it feels safer. Safe doesn't make you grow. If you want to get better at speaking, you have to speak. Not just when it's easy, especially when it's not. The problem is people want to feel confident before they open their mouths. They want the strength to show up before they've tested themselves. But that's not how it works. You get the strength by doing the uncomfortable thing again and again. You get the confidence by facing the fear, not avoiding it. When you avoid real conversations, you avoid the exact opportunities that would make you stronger. Every time you say nothing, you teach yourself to stay small. Every time you speak up, even a little, you send a message to yourself. I can handle this. I belong here. You don't need a big audience. You don't need a stage. You need the courage to use your voice when it's your turn to speak. That's where confidence is built. Confidence doesn't live in your thoughts. It lives in your actions, in the way you carry yourself when you're being listened to, in the way you explain something to a group, even if your voice shakes, in the way you stand up in a meeting and say something that feels uncomfortable. That's what grows you. That's what separates people who stay quiet from people who lead. And the truth is, no one starts out confident. Nobody walks into their first real conversation and speaks with perfect rhythm, clarity, and strength. You'll stumble, you'll lose your words, you'll say something and immediately wish you said it better. That's fine. That's part of the process. But if you keep showing up in those moments, you'll get better. You'll find your rhythm. You'll learn how to adjust. That's where your real power begins, inside the situations that test you. The small daily moments matter more than people think. It's not just about public speaking or giving big speeches. It's about ordering food without hesitation. It's about sharing your opinion in a group. It's about holding eye contact when you say what you believe. These are the moments that build the muscle. If you ignore them, you miss your training. You don't need to prepare forever. You need to act more often. You need to take the shot instead of just thinking about it. Confidence is not pretending you're perfect. Confidence is knowing that you can speak up and handle what comes next. That even if someone disagrees, you're okay. That even if you mess up, you'll fix it. It's knowing that your voice matters and using it when the situation calls for it. Every time you talk, in a real situation, you collect experience. And experience gives you tools. You start to notice how to start your sentences better. You pick up on what people respond to. You feel how your tone changes based on your energy. You learn more in 5 minutes of real talking than in hours of silent planning. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming they need to feel ready, that somehow one day they'll wake up and the nervousness will be gone. That's not real. You don't wait for fear to leave. You move through it. You show up even when your heart is racing. You speak anyway. That's what makes fear lose its grip. You don't get confident first, you get in the game first, and then confidence follows. People respect those who use their voice, not in a loud way, in a real way, in a way that shows you mean what you say. When you speak up in everyday life, people start paying attention. not because you're loud, but because you're present. You're not hiding behind silence. You're stepping forward with intention that makes you stand out in a world full of hesitation. Start small if you have to. Say one extra sentence in a conversation today. Ask one more question. Answer when someone asks for your opinion instead of brushing it off. Speak up during the team meeting, even if it's just a short thought. Real situations give you real growth. There's no substitute for that. The more you do it, the more natural it becomes. This is how confident people are built. Not by chance, but by choice. They choose to speak even when it's easier to stay silent. They choose to participate instead of holding back. They don't wait to be chosen. They step into the moment and claim it. And you can too. There's no special talent required. It just takes daily practice in real-life settings. You don't need to impress people. You need to connect. And people connect with honesty. They connect with someone who's willing to speak from a real place, not someone who's rehearsed every word, but someone who's there, speaking clearly, without hiding. That's what makes you believable. That's what gives your words weight. Stop thinking you need to sound perfect. Start thinking you need to sound real. Speak like a human being. Speak like someone who's learning every day. Speak like someone who knows they have value. That's where it all begins. That's how confidence grows. Through action, through presence, through repetition. And here's the truth most people avoid. The more you avoid speaking in real situations, the more you train your body to feel anxious when it's time to speak. But the more you speak, the more your body starts to relax in those moments. It begins to understand that you're not in danger, that you can handle pressure, that you can respond, think, and express your thoughts. You literally rewire your brain when you keep putting yourself in real talking situations. Confidence isn't just about words. It's about the energy behind those words. And that energy comes from familiarity, from being in those situations again and again. If you avoid them, you stay a stranger to yourself. But if you keep stepping in, you become strong. You become clear. You become someone others listen to. Not because you're the loudest, but because you're the most grounded. You don't need more time. You need more courage. Confidence comes from doing the hard thing and realizing you survived it. It comes from pushing through your discomfort instead of letting it decide how you live. You build it like anything else, one decision at a time, one moment at a time, one real conversation at a time. The world is full of noise, but not many voices. If you learn how to speak with clarity, with strength, with confidence, you will stand out. You will lead. You will grow, not because someone handed it to you, but because you earned it by doing what most avoid. Speak up, speak often, speak where it counts. That's where the transformation begins. Chapter 3. Ask clear questions to become a better speaker. If you want to become a better speaker, start by asking better questions. That's the part most people miss. They try to talk more, talk louder, talk longer, but they don't listen enough. And they don't ask with clarity. If you ask in a vague way, you'll get vague answers. And if you're vague in your questions, you'll stay vague in your speech. Real communication begins when you learn to ask clearly. When your questions make sense, your thoughts begin to make more sense. That's how you improve your ability to speak with confidence and clarity. People who ask strong, clear questions have a powerful advantage. They learn faster. They understand deeper. They connect quicker. Because every clear question has a purpose. It opens a door. It invites a better conversation. And in that conversation, you grow. If you ask with no direction, you drift. If you ask with intention, you move forward. Asking questions trains your thinking. It forces you to slow down to figure out exactly what you're trying to know and to shape your curiosity into something real. Clear questions create better dialogue. Think about how most conversations go. One person speaks, the other waits for their turn to reply. But when someone asks a good question, everything changes. It shows interest, it shows presence, and it invites honesty. That's when people open up. That's when the conversation becomes meaningful. And when you're in meaningful conversations, often you naturally become a better speaker. You get used to going deeper. You get used to sharing thoughts that matter. Most people ask lazy questions because they're not really paying attention. They're just filling space. They ask questions they've asked 100 times before, and they get answers they've heard 100 times. That doesn't grow you. What grows you is asking something that makes the other person pause, think, and give you a real answer. That's what sharpens your communication. That's what teaches you how to handle serious topics, how to stay focused in a conversation, and how to express yourself with purpose. Now think about what asking a question really does. It forces you to be clear with your own thoughts before you expect clarity from anyone else. You can't ask something thoughtful if you don't know what you're thinking. So, before you speak, take a moment to shape the question. Ask what you really want to know. That little moment of preparation sharpens your entire interaction. It shows people you value the conversation. It shows you care about the answer, and it puts you in a position of strength, not dominance, but presence. Asking clear questions also teaches you timing. It teaches you to wait, to observe, and to respond rather than react. When you ask something real, you stop talking just to talk. You start talking to discover. That's when you begin to notice more about people. You pick up on how they speak. You hear what matters to them. You see how they explain things. And the more you learn, the more you have to contribute when it's your turn to speak. Clarity in your questions builds clarity in your responses. Every time you ask clearly, you train yourself to be direct without being harsh. You learn how to guide a conversation without controlling it. You learn how to make space for others while still standing strong in your own expression. That balance is where real communication lives. That's where connection happens. If you want to speak better, ask better. If you want to express more clearly, learn to think through your questions first. That mental habit starts shaping your speech in powerful ways. You begin to notice that your sentences are tighter. Your tone is more focused. You don't wander. You don't ramble. You go straight to the point, and people start listening differently. They start seeing you as someone who communicates with clarity, and it's not about being clever. It's about being sincere. Ask questions that mean something to you. Ask about things that matter, not small talk, but real talk. And when you do, you'll notice people opening up in a different way. They'll start trusting your presence. They'll remember the conversation. That's what makes someone articulate, not just the way they talk, but the way they make others talk too. Every question is a tool. If you use it right, you break through confusion, you reveal understanding, you lead the direction of the talk. But if your questions are weak or messy, you create more confusion. So start taking your questions seriously. Don't rush them. Don't just say the first thing that comes to your mind. Pause, think, then speak. And when the other person answers, actually listen. That's part of becoming better at speaking, learning how to listen with full attentions. Real speakers don't dominate conversations. They guide them, they move them forward, they build them. And you can't do that if you're not curious. Curiosity is what fuels better questions, and better questions bring out better stories, better lessons, and better answers. It's a cycle of growth. The more curious you are, the better you speak, because curiosity leads to listening, and listening leads to better speaking. You don't need a big vocabulary to be articulate. You need real interest. You need the courage to ask something meaningful. That's where connection starts. That's where understanding grows. If you avoid asking questions, you avoid understanding people. And if you avoid people, your ability to speak will always stay limited. The only way to expand it is to engage often and ask with clarity. Sometimes we avoid asking questions because we don't want to look weak or uninformed, but that mindset keeps you small. The strongest people are the ones who are willing to ask, even if they don't have all the answers. They're not afraid to admit they're still learning, and because of that, they grow faster. They build deeper connections. They earn more trust. All because they lead with curiosity, not ego. Asking clear questions also improves your emotional intelligence. You become more aware of how others feel, how they think, what they need. You begin to understand the tone of a conversation, and from that awareness, you start choosing your words more carefully. You stop reacting from impulse and start responding with care. And when you speak from care, your words carry weight. The way you ask reveals the way you think. If you want your words to matter, your questions have to matter first. Start noticing the questions you ask during the day. Are they useful? Are they clear? Are they helping the conversation grow or just filling time? If not, change them. Upgrade the quality of your questions, and you'll upgrade the quality of every conversation you have. And the beauty of this practice is that it works in every area of life. In your work, your family, your friendships, your goals. Everything improves when your communication improves. And that communication starts with how you ask. You don't need to wait for perfect conditions. Start today. Ask one better question. Practice one better conversation. Be intentional with your words and notice how people respond. That's how you grow. That's how you learn to speak clearly and confidently, by shaping your thoughts into focused questions that create meaningful dialogue. Once you make this shift, you'll never go back. You'll stop fearing conversations. You'll start looking forward to them, because you won't just be talking anymore, you'll be connecting. You won't just be answering, you'll be learning. That's what makes communication powerful, and it starts with one simple choice. Ask clearly and keep growing from every conversation you have.
Chapter 4. Learn how to pause so people follow you. One of the most powerful skills you can develop as a speaker is learning how to pause, not when you're finished, but while you're speaking. That's when it matters most. Most people rush through their words because they're uncomfortable with silence. They think if they stop speaking for a second, they'll lose momentum, or worse, lose attention. But the truth is, if you don't pause, people can't follow you. They don't get the chance to take in what you're saying. They don't get to feel the meaning behind your words. And that's the difference between someone who talks and someone who communicates. Pausing doesn't mean hesitation, it means control. It means you're not racing to the end. You're guiding the moment, you're letting your message breathe. A strong pause gives space for your words to land. It allows people to catch up, and it gives you a second to think and stay grounded. Rushing is the habit of the unprepared. Pausing is the habit of the intentional. When you pause, you show confidence. You show you're not afraid to be heard. You're not afraid of the silence between the words. You're not trying to prove anything. You're simply here, present and clear. And that presence is what makes people pay attention. You're not speaking to fill air. You're speaking to deliver something that matters. And when something matters, you don't rush it. A pause also gives power to what you just said. It lets the listener reflect on it. Think about that. When someone says something that hits home, you don't want them to keep talking. You want a moment. You want space. You want time to feel it. That's what a pause gives people. It makes your words feel real. It makes your message easier to remember. Too many people speak like they're trying to escape their own words. They rush through sentences, throw out points back to back, and hope something sticks. But the more they speak without pausing, the more their message blends into noise. People don't remember speed. They remember moments. They remember how they felt. And those moments are created through rhythm, timing, and space. Learning to pause also teaches you emotional control. It helps you slow down your thoughts and stay calm, even under pressure. If you're in a high-stakes conversation or speaking in front of others, that pause helps you reset. It helps you gather your thoughts. It prevents you from saying things you don't mean. It brings clarity to your thinking before the words come out. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. And people trust those who speak with thought. When they hear you pause, they feel you're thinking. You're choosing your words carefully. You're not just reacting. You're not blurting out the first thing that pops into your head. That alone changes how people see you. It makes you sound like a person who's in control, not just of their words but of their thoughts and emotions. Practice your pauses in everyday conversations, not just in speeches. When someone asks you a question, don't rush to answer. Take a second. Breathe. Think about what you really want to say. Then speak. That small habit shifts how people perceive you. It gives your words weight. It gives your message structure. And most importantly, it gives you authority. Speaking with pauses also teaches you to observe your listener. While you pause, you get to see how your words are landing. You get to read their body language. You get to understand if they're following you or if they're confused. You can adjust. You can repeat something. You can slow down or speed up, depending on how they respond. That's real communication. It's not about talking non-stop. It's about connection. And connection comes when both people are involved. When there's space to hear, respond and absorb. Some people fear the pause because they think it makes them look unsure. But it's the opposite. People who fill every second with sound usually sound less certain. They don't give space because they're uncomfortable. But when you pause on purpose, it changes the energy. People lean in. They wait for what's next. They feel like what you're saying is important, because you're treating it like it is. Think about the best speakers you've ever heard. They didn't just speak. They paused. They gave you moments to think. They made you feel the weight of their message. And when they were silent, it wasn't empty. It was powerful. You can do the same. You don't need to be dramatic. You just need to be intentional. Say something important. Then stop. Let it land. Let it breathe. Then move forward. This isn't just about public speaking. This is about your everyday life, your relationships, your job, your ability to lead. When you pause, you become more aware. You stop reacting on autopilot. You stop talking just to fill space. You start speaking with care, with purpose. And people can feel that. They respond differently to it. They remember it. Because it's rare. Everyone's trying to say more in less time. But the real strength is in saying less with more meaning. That's what the pause does. It adds meaning. It gives depth to your message. It makes your words last longer in someone's mind. Not because they were fancy, but because they were delivered with clarity. You can also use the pause to break tension. If a conversation gets heated, or if emotions run high, you don't need to push harder. You need to pause. Take the energy down. Let things settle. Then continue. That 1 second can shift everything. It can stop a fight from breaking out. It can keep a conversation from going off the rails. It can keep you grounded when everything feels unstable. Practice speaking out loud and inserting natural pauses, not forced ones, just enough to let each thought finish before the next begins. Read something and pause at the right spots. Speak about your day and give space between your ideas. Over time, it becomes natural. It becomes part of your rhythm, and people will notice the difference. They won't just hear your words. They'll feel them. You don't need to be the loudest person in the room to be heard. You need to speak in a way that people want to listen, and that happens when you know how to pace yourself, when you don't rush, when you take your time, when you speak like every word matters, because they do. When you speak like your message deserves space, because it does. You earn trust through how you speak, just as much as what you say. And when people trust your words, they follow your lead. They remember your message. They respect your voice. All of that starts with how you use silence. Not as a gap, but as a tool. Not as an accident, but as a strategy. It's not just about talking. It's about being heard. And to be heard, you must learn to pause. Not at the end. In the middle. Right where it matters most. Chapter 5. Train your mouth to match what you think. Most people struggle with communication because what they think and what they say don't match. The thought is clear in their mind, but when they try to say it, the words come out different. They come out messy, uncertain, or incomplete. And they wonder why people don't understand them. But the reason is simple. Your mouth isn't trained yet. It hasn't been conditioned to express what your mind knows. You might have great ideas, clear thoughts, and deep understanding, but if your words don't reflect that, nobody sees it. That's why you must train your mouth to match what you think. This isn't something that happens overnight. It's a daily practice. You can't just expect your words to fall in place if you haven't practiced putting your thoughts into sentences. A good thinker isn't always a good speaker. You have to develop the skill of translating what's in your mind into words that people understand. And that translation requires discipline. You need to speak more, not just to others but to yourself. When you think something important, try saying it out loud. Don't wait for the perfect moment. The moment is now. Speak it. Hear how it sounds. Pay attention to what feels off. Then say it again, but better. Every time you do that, you build a connection between your thoughts and your voice. That's where confidence starts. When you know you can say what you mean, without hesitation, you stop second-guessing yourself. You stop holding back. You start speaking up, not to impress others, but because you finally trust your own expression. And that trust builds over time. One sentence at a time. One conversation at a time. You don't need to memorize scripts. You need to develop fluency. Fluency in your own thinking. Fluency in your expression. When your mouth and your mind are in sync, you become unstoppable, because now you're not filtering or fumbling. You're clear. You're steady. You're sharp. People can feel that. They trust it. And they listen differently when your words come from a clear place. But it takes effort. You have to pay attention to how you speak. Do you speak too fast and lose your train of thought? Do you say things that don't match what you really mean? Do you fall back on vague phrases because you haven't practiced saying things directly? These are all signs that your mouth and your mind are out of sync. You don't fix that by staying silent. You fix it by practicing the connection, by slowing down, by staying present, by getting used to hearing your own voice express what you actually think. This process starts with simple steps. Take an idea you believe in and explain it out loud. Not to impress anyone, just to see if your words reflect your thoughts. If they don't, go again. Speak slower. Speak with more care. Adjust until it fits, until what comes out sounds like what you meant to say. That's how you build alignment. That's how you build power. Too many people are afraid of sounding wrong, so they never train. They stay quiet. They wait for perfection. But silence doesn't build skill. Repetition does. Trial and error does. Speaking when it's awkward, speaking when it's clumsy, speaking even when it's not smooth. That's how you get better. That's how you bridge the gap between what you think and what you say. It also helps to write. Writing your thoughts down forces you to get clear. It slows your mind. It helps you see where you're being vague or confusing. But don't stop at writing. Take what you wrote and speak it. Read it out loud. Then say it in your own words. That's how you transfer written clarity into spoken clarity. It's a process, and it works. The goal is not to sound smart. The goal is to sound real, to speak like someone who knows what they're saying and believes in it. When you speak from alignment, you don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to over-explain. People feel it. They hear the truth in your tone. They sense the connection between your thoughts and your delivery. And that's what makes communication powerful. It's not just the words. It's the alignment behind the words. Train yourself by engaging in real conversations. Not small talk, but real talk. Share your perspective. Break down your thoughts. Explain what you care about. Not everything will come out perfect. And that's fine. You're not chasing perfection. You're building fluency. You're building the habit of thinking clearly and speaking clearly. That habit turns into a skill. That skill turns into a strength. And that strength becomes a voice people respect. Don't wait until you feel ready. Readiness comes from action. From speaking more. From failing, adjusting and improving. Don't be afraid to hear yourself. Don't be afraid to sound different than what you expected. That's part of growth. It's messy at first, but it sharpens you. It shows you where the gaps are. And every time you close one of those gaps, your voice becomes stronger. You have important things to say, but they don't matter if no one can understand them. Your job is to make your message clear. Your job is to close the space between your thoughts and your words. That's how you become a strong communicator. That's how you become someone people want to follow, because they know you're not guessing. They know you're not hiding behind words. You're showing up, fully, openly, honestly. This also helps you in moments of pressure. When you've trained yourself to speak your thoughts clearly, you stay calm under stress. You don't panic when you're asked a question. You don't freeze when it's your turn to speak. You respond, with clarity, with strength, because you've done the work. You've practiced. You've made that connection strong. And now, even when the pressure's on, your words still match your thoughts. That's what real communication looks like. That's how you earn attention and respect. Not by speaking more, but by speaking better. Speaking from a place of alignment, of awareness, of real preparation. And that preparation is daily. It's not once a week. It's not once a month. It's a part of who you are. You live it. You practice it. And over time it becomes second nature. Start with one idea today. Think it through. Then speak it. Not in your head. Out loud. Listen to it. Adjust it. Say it again. Make it smoother. Make it sharper. Then take that same idea and say it to someone else. Watch how it lands. Learn from their reaction. Then improve it again. This is the process. It's slow at first, but powerful in the long run. If your words don't match your thinking, people won't follow your message. They'll feel the disconnect. But when your voice matches your mind, people lean in. They feel your belief. They sense your direction. And they listen differently. You don't need to push your words. You just need to mean them. And to mean them, you need to align them. Thought to speech. Mind to mouth. That's how you grow. That's how you lead. That's how you earn your voice.
Chapter 6. Record yourself talking and fix what sounds off. If you want to speak better, you have to know how you sound. Not how you think you sound, how you actually sound. And the only way to find that out is to record yourself. That's the real test. Most people avoid it. They don't like hearing their voice. They say it makes them feel uncomfortable, but that discomfort is exactly why it works. The moment you hear your own words played back to you, you start to understand your habits. You hear every pause, every filler, every place where you drift. You see the difference between what you meant to say and what actually came out. That's where real improvement begins. Listening to yourself on a recording strips away the guesswork. It shows you the truth. No filters, no assumptions, just your voice, your message, and your delivery, exactly as it is. It's one of the most effective ways to grow fast, because now you're not just thinking about how to speak better. You're watching the evidence. You're hearing it. You're observing it like someone else would. That's how you get better, by looking at your own communication the way others experience it. When you hit record, you take responsibility for your growth. You stop blaming nerves. You stop hiding behind excuses. You start doing something about it. It's a form of practice that builds awareness. It builds focus. And it builds control. Because now when you speak in real conversations, your brain starts to recognize those moments where you've improved before. You remember how it sounded in the recording. You remember what you fixed. And that memory kicks in when it matters. At first it's uncomfortable. You might cringe. You might say, "I can't believe I sound like that." But let that be a sign of progress, not a reason to quit. That discomfort is the beginning of self-awareness. You're seeing your weak spots. And that's a gift. Most people go their whole lives never noticing why they're not effective communicators. They just keep talking the same way, repeating the same mistakes, and wondering why no one listens. But not you. If you're willing to press record, you're already ahead of them. You're doing the work that most people avoid. The best part is you don't need any fancy setup. Use your phone. Open the voice recorder. Talk about something important to you. It could be your opinion on a subject, your goals, or just how your day went. The topic doesn't matter as much as the practice. Speak for 2 or 3 minutes. Then stop and listen, not as yourself. Listen like someone who doesn't know you. Listen like your audience. And then pay attention. Notice your pace. Are you rushing through your words? Are you giving people time to digest what you're saying? Listen to your tone. Does it match your message? Are you too flat, too high, too forced? Watch for the little things, words you repeat without meaning to, thoughts that trail off without direction, or sentences that don't land clearly. All of that is useful.
That's what you fix. When you spot something that doesn't feel right, don't just think about it, practice it again. Say it differently. Say it cleaner. Say it with more presence. Then record it again and compare the difference. That's how you know you're improving. You're not just hoping your communication gets better. You're proving it with every session, with every playback, with every correction. This kind of practice makes you sharper in real time, because once you've heard your weak spots, you can't unhear them. You start catching them when you speak live, and you adjust faster. You become more aware of the moments where you need to pause. You notice when your voice is drifting. You feel when your energy is off, and you correct it. Not after the fact, right there in the moment. It also builds a stronger connection between your brain and your voice. The more you hear yourself, the more comfortable you get with expressing your thoughts. You don't second-guess yourself as much. You don't feel like a stranger to your own voice. You know how you sound. You've trained for it. You've studied it. And now you control it. Don't expect perfection. Expect progress. Every recording you do is a step forward. You might not like the first 5. You might not love the way you sound, but if you stay consistent, you'll start to notice something incredible. One day you'll hit play, and you'll think, that's me, that actually sounds like what I wanted to say. And that moment is proof that the work is paying off. Make this part of your weekly routine. Just like people go to the gym to work on their body, you go to the mic to work on your voice. It's your tool, and if you don't maintain it, it gets dull. But if you sharpen it every week through practice, through review, through correction, it becomes one of your strongest assets. Not just for public speaking, for job interviews, for conversations that matter, for sharing your ideas clearly and with impact. You'll also start enjoying the process. What felt uncomfortable at first becomes a challenge you want to conquer. You'll take pride in catching those moments where you used to stumble. You'll push yourself to explain things better, to speak with more strength, to own your message. And that mindset doesn't stay in your speaking. It spreads into everything you do. You start showing up differently, because now you know how to speak like someone who's been through the work. Don't be afraid to mess up. The goal isn't to sound perfect. The goal is to grow. Growth is messy. Growth is full of awkward tries and small corrections. That's what makes it real. The fact that you're willing to listen to yourself and fix what needs fixing says more about your character than any smooth sentence ever will. That's discipline. That's commitment. That's personal responsibility in action. And over time your voice becomes more than just sound. It becomes a reflection of your preparation, your values and your identity. People will hear it and sense the work behind it. They won't know about the hours of recording or the dozens of playbacks, but they'll feel the confidence, they'll feel the control, and they'll respect it. You won't have to force attention anymore. You'll earn it. Because when you speak, your words will feel clean, focused, balanced. That's what this process builds. And it all starts with a simple act: pressing record, facing the sound of your own voice, and deciding to make it better, no matter how uncomfortable it feels at first. Every time you do that, you separate yourself from the crowd. You rise above the noise. Because while others are guessing, you're learning. While they're avoiding, you're improving. While they're hoping to get better, you're taking action. One recording at a time, one fix at a time. That's how real change happens. That's how strong speakers are built. And that's how you create a voice that truly represents the power of your thinking. Chapter 7. Challenge yourself to explain things in simple words. If you really want to become a better communicator, you have to get good at making things simple. not watered down, not empty, just clear. The truth is, anyone can use complicated language. That's easy to do. You can throw in big words, long explanations, or technical terms. But that doesn't make you smart. It doesn't make your message stronger. What makes you effective is being able to take something complex and explain it in a way that any person can understand it right away. That's the real skill. And it takes effort. It takes awareness. You have to train yourself to speak in a way that reaches people, not just impresses them. A lot of people hide behind complicated words because they're afraid of sounding too simple. But the ones who really know what they're talking about, those are the ones who can break things down in plain language. If you truly understand something, you can explain it simply. If you can't, it probably means you're still unclear in your own mind. So if you want to grow, start by testing yourself. Take an idea you know well and try to explain it like you're talking to a young student. Not to insult the listener, to challenge yourself. Because if they can get it, anyone can. This forces you to slow down and organize your thoughts. You have to ask yourself, what really matters in this point? What's the core of what I'm trying to say? That reflection is powerful. It improves your thinking. It improves your delivery. You stop trying to sound impressive and you start focusing on being understood. That shift alone can change the way people listen to you. Because people don't follow confusion. They follow clarity. And clarity comes from stripping away what's extra and getting to what's essential. It's not about talking less. It's about saying more with less. It's about choosing words that carry weight. Words that feel natural and honest. When someone hears you speak in a way that's easy to follow, they don't feel lost. They don't have to work hard to understand you. And that makes your message stick. People remember things they understand. They ignore what feels complicated or unclear. So if your goal is to influence, to lead, or just to be heard, start by making your words simple. One way to do this is to take common ideas and try explaining them out loud. You don't need an audience to practice this. Just pick a topic and say it clearly, without relying on fancy language. Then ask yourself, did I really say what I meant to say? Would someone hearing this for the first time understand it fully? If the answer is no, go again. Cut out the clutter. Choose better words. Try a different approach. It's like working a muscle. The more you do it, the stronger you get at expressing things in a way people can actually connect with. When you're around someone who communicates simply, it feels good. You don't feel judged. You don't feel confused. You feel like they respect your time and attention. That kind of speaker earns trust fast, because we all want to understand. We all want someone to talk to us like we're real, not like we're trying to pass a test. So when you challenge yourself to simplify, you're doing your audience a favor. You're making things easier for them. You're being generous with your words. And that generosity is what makes you memorable. Sometimes people overcomplicate things because they're afraid of being misunderstood. They think using bigger words will protect them, but it usually does the opposite. It creates distance. People stop listening, or they pretend to understand and walk away with nothing. Don't let that be you. Be the person who makes things clear. Be the one who knows how to explain something in real terms. Not because you're dumbing it down, but because you're lifting others up. You also learn a lot about yourself when you simplify. You notice where you're unsure. You see what parts of your thinking are still foggy. And instead of ignoring that, you fix it. You ask better questions. You learn deeper. You grow stronger. Because now you're not hiding behind language. You're facing your own understanding head on. That's not easy to do, but it's worth it. Try it in your daily life. If someone asks you a question, don't just give the first answer that comes to mind. Take a second, think about how to say it clearly. Then say it. Watch how they respond. You'll start noticing something powerful. People engage more. They ask better questions. They open up, because now they feel like they're in a conversation, not a lecture. That's the power of simple words. They bring people closer. Don't confuse simple with small. Some of the most powerful speakers in the world use the most basic language. Not because they can't use more complex words, but because they know what works. They know that connection beats complexity every time. If your goal is to reach people, start with words they already understand. Don't try to impress them. Try to connect with them. That's what earns their respect. When you explain something in simple terms, you also make it easier for people to share it. They remember what you said. They repeat it to others. That's how your message spreads. That's how your ideas grow. Not because you used advanced vocabulary, but because you spoke with clarity and impact. You gave people something they could hold on to. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be clear. If you can do that, your words will travel far. And it starts with this habit, challenging yourself to make things simple. Every time you catch yourself using a phrase that's too complicated, stop. Ask yourself, how would I explain this to someone who's never heard it before? That one question can sharpen your thinking like nothing else. And over time, your communication transforms. You stop stumbling. You stop overthinking. You start speaking from a place of calm, steady understanding. People hear you and they nod. Not because you used big words, but because you made sense. You brought value. You respected their time. And that's what turns average talkers into powerful speakers. If you want to build real influence, this is the path. Not more noise. Not more complexity. Just more clarity. Train yourself to break things down. Train yourself to use everyday language. Train yourself to be understood. That's how you lead. That's how you stand out. That's how you speak in a way that actually changes people. Speak simply, and you'll be heard more deeply. That's the power of keeping things clear. Chapter 8. Practice talking without rushing or dragging your voice. The way you speak says a lot about how you feel. People don't just hear your words, they hear your energy. They pick up on your speed, your rhythm, and your tone before they even understand your message. That's why it's so important to train your pace. If you speak too fast, people can't keep up. They miss what you're saying, even if your message is good. And if you drag your words, they lose interest. They tune out. In both cases, your message gets lost. The words might be there, but the delivery weakens the impact. That's why learning how to talk without rushing or dragging is a skill every strong communicator must master. When you rush your words, it usually means you're nervous or uncertain. You want to get through the conversation quickly. Maybe you're afraid of being interrupted. Or maybe you just want to finish before your mind forgets what you meant to say. But rushing doesn't help you. It works against you. It makes you sound unsure, even when you know what you're talking about. People struggle to follow you. They miss key points. They get distracted trying to keep up, and they walk away without the full message. Speaking too slowly, on the other hand, can make you sound disconnected. If every sentence takes too long to land, the listener's mind starts to wander. They might respect the effort, but they won't stay with you. A message delivered too slowly loses power, no matter how meaningful it is. So you need to find that middle point, that natural, steady pace that keeps people engaged and gives your message space to land. The key is to sound like you're in control, not forced, not rehearsed, just present. When you talk at a balanced speed, you give your words room to breathe. You make it easier for people to stay with you. You show that you're confident in what you're saying. You're not rushing through it, and you're not dragging it out. You're delivering it like someone who knows what they mean and wants to make sure others get it. One way to train this is to read out loud every day. Pick something short, a paragraph or two, and focus on the pacing. Don't let yourself rush, and don't stretch your words too long. Just say each sentence like it matters, like someone's listening. Do that regularly, and you'll start to feel what a balanced pace sounds like. It becomes part of your speaking rhythm, and that rhythm starts showing up in real conversations. Another method is to record yourself talking naturally about a topic you care about. Don't script it, just speak. Then play it back and listen for two things, where you're too fast and where you're too slow. Make notes. Then do it again, adjusting your pace. This process helps you become more aware of your habits. You start noticing when you're speeding up because of nerves or dragging because you're unsure what to say next. That awareness is what builds control. Your pacing affects more than just your words. It affects your presence. People respond differently to someone who speaks with balance. They feel that person is more grounded, more prepared, more honest. They trust them faster, not because of what's being said, but because of how it's being delivered. And once trust is there, your words carry more weight. If you want to have real conversations that connect, this matters. Whether you're in a job interview, giving feedback, sharing an idea, or explaining something important, your pace changes how people hear you. If you rush, they feel your anxiety. If you drag, they feel your hesitation. But if you speak with balance, they feel your confidence. That's what makes the message clear. That's what makes it stick. When you find yourself speeding up, pause, take a breath, reset. You're not in a race. You don't win by finishing first. You win by being understood. And when you feel yourself dragging your voice, get focused. Pick up the pace just a little. Not to rush, but to re-engage. Think of it like music. The beat matters, too fast or too slow, and the song loses its feeling. But just the right tempo, and everything works. This isn't about trying to sound perfect. It's about developing control. When you have control over your pace, you gain influence. You don't just talk, you guide. You direct the flow of the conversation. You move people from one idea to the next, with intention, and they follow you, not because you force it, but because your delivery makes it easy to stay with you. The best communicators make people feel like they're having a real conversation, even when they're delivering a speech. That comes from pacing, from sounding natural, from respecting the listener's attention. You don't want them working hard to keep up, and you don't want them waiting too long for each point to land. You want them in rhythm with you, connected, present. The only way to build this skill is through practice. You can't read about it and expect it to show up. You need to train your mouth and your mind to move together. You need to pay attention to how you speak, not just what you say. Record, listen, adjust, do it again. It's not exciting, but it works. The more you practice speaking at a steady pace, the more natural it feels. You start to carry that calm energy into every conversation. You don't feel rushed anymore. You don't feel stuck. You just speak. Clearly, confidently, consistently. That's what builds trust. That's what earns attention. That's what changes the way people listen to you. It also helps you stay in control of your emotions. When you slow yourself down or pick up the pace intentionally, you manage your state. You stop yourself from spiraling into nervous energy. You stay grounded. And people sense that stability. It makes them feel safe in the conversation. It makes them want to hear more. When you speak with balance, you also protect your message. You don't lose key points. You don't skip over important parts. You give everything the time it needs. And that makes your ideas stronger, more complete, more respected, because now your audience can follow the logic. They can feel the rhythm, and they stay with you from start to finish. Remember, it's not about being robotic. It's about being real. Let your personality come through. Let your energy guide the moment. But stay aware of your pace. Keep checking in with yourself. Are you rushing? Slow down. Are you dragging? Pick it up. Find that natural balance where you're fully engaged, but never scattered. Every great communicator went through this training. They learned how to pace their words in a way that moved people. It wasn't by accident, it was by design. And now it's your turn. If you want to improve how you speak, this is a skill you can't skip. It's not flashy, but it's foundational. Talk to people like they matter. Talk like your message matters, and control your pace so it lands the right way. That's how you earn a voice. People listen to, not just once but over and over again. And it all starts with a simple habit. Practice speaking with balance. Not too fast, not too slow, just clear, steady, and strong. That's how you get heard. And more importantly, that's how you get remembered. Chapter 9. Get used to silence while holding your message. Most people are afraid of silence when they speak. They feel the need to fill every second with words, as if quiet moments mean they've lost control. But silence is not the enemy. It's a tool. And if you want to become a powerful communicator, you need to get comfortable with it. You need to learn how to hold your message even when there's nothing being said. Because that pause, that moment of quiet, can be more powerful than any word you could rush to say. There's a difference between losing your words and choosing to pause. When you choose to pause, it shows strength. It shows you're not desperate to be heard. You're already in control. You're giving your words time to settle. You're giving people space to absorb what you've said. You're holding their attention without force. That's real presence. That's how you gain trust. If you're constantly filling the air with sound, people don't get a chance to feel what you're saying. They hear it, but they don't process it. You might be passionate, you might be loud, you might say a lot of smart things, but if you don't allow silence, your message gets lost in the rush. When you use silence with intention, you slow the world down for a moment. You let the idea breathe. You let the listener stay with you, rather than run ahead or fall behind. Holding your message during silence also builds your inner strength. You stop relying on constant talking to feel secure. You learn to stand in a moment of quiet without shrinking, without scrambling for something to say. That's a different kind of power. You don't have to fill every gap. You just have to own the moment. And that moment includes the silence. In conversation, the most powerful moments often happen after a short pause. That's when the other person leans in. That's when they think. That's when they feel something. But if you rush in to fill that space, you rob them of that connection. You interrupt the impact before it lands. Don't do that. Don't be afraid of a few seconds where nothing is said. Those seconds are doing the work for you if you let them. When you speak and then pause, it shows you believe in what you said. You're not in a hurry to move past it. You're letting it rest. You're holding your ground, and in that stillness people see confidence. They see focus. They see that your message matters to you, and that makes it matter more to them. Silence also helps you reset. It gives you time to think, to breathe, to feel the room. You don't need to rush your way through every point. You can stop, gather your thoughts, and speak with fresh clarity. That small moment of quiet can protect you from saying things you'll regret, or from rambling without direction. It brings you back to center. Most people are uncomfortable with silence because they see it as a weakness. They think it means they've lost momentum. But it's the opposite. Silence, when used well, builds momentum. It creates tension. It holds attention. It tells your audience that something is coming, something worth waiting for. That anticipation draws them in. They stay with you, not because you're loud, but because you're deliberate. It takes practice to get used to silence. You have to face the discomfort. You have to feel the urge to speak and choose not to. You have to sit in the stillness without panicking. That's how you train yourself. That's how you build composure. And that composure turns into a presence that people respect. Try it in your daily life. When you're in a conversation, finish your point and stop. Let the words hang for a moment. Let the other person react. Don't jump in. Don't explain too fast. Give it a beat. You'll be surprised what happens. People listen more. They remember more. And they open up more. You can also practice this alone. Talk out loud about something important to you, and build in short pauses. Not random ones, intentional ones. After a key sentence, stop for 2 seconds. Feel the silence. Let it sit, then continue. You're training your system to handle stillness. You're teaching your body and mind to stay calm when the room is quiet. When you master this, you speak differently. You stop relying on speed. You stop fearing quiet. You speak because you have something to say, not because you're afraid of silence. That's a powerful shift, and people notice it. They don't always know why, but they feel it. They feel that you're in control, and that makes them want to listen. It's important to understand that silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. A pause doesn't mean you've lost your place. It often means you've landed on something important. You're letting it echo. You're letting the weight of your words settle. And in that space, people think. They reflect. They remember. That's where connection grows. In high-pressure moments, silence becomes even more valuable. When you're asked a tough question, don't rush to respond. Pause, think, then speak. That moment of stillness gives you clarity. It gives your listener the sense that you're thoughtful, not reactive. That you don't just speak to speak. You speak to bring something meaningful into the room. Holding your message in silence also helps you protect your emotions. When you're upset or nervous, a pause can stop you from saying things you'll regret. It gives you space to cool down, to choose better words, to speak with care. That alone can save relationships, save opportunities, and build respect. You don't need to stretch out silence just for the sake of it. That feels unnatural, but you do need to recognize its power. Use it like a tool. Place it where it belongs. Trust it to do its job. And most importantly, don't fear it. It's not a gap. It's part of the message. Your voice is more than sound. It's your rhythm, your energy, your ability to hold space. And space includes quiet. Don't run from it. Use it. Let it work for you. Let it show the strength in your words. Let it hold the message long enough for people to feel it. The goal isn't to speak non-stop. The goal is to be heard. And sometimes being heard means saying less, with more presence. It means knowing when to pause, knowing when to hold back, knowing when the silence speaks louder than the words. That's what separates a good communicator from a great one. You don't need more words. You need more control. And part of control is learning to stop and let the room settle. Let the energy catch up to the message. Let your presence do the talking when your mouth is still. The world moves fast. Most people don't know how to stop. If you can master the silence, if you can hold your message without rushing or apologizing, you will stand out. You will speak with clarity. You will lead with calm. And you'll earn a voice that makes a lasting impact. Not just because of what you say, but because of how you hold it in the space between.
Chapter 10. Track your daily progress and speak with intention. If you want to improve the way you speak, you can't just leave it to chance. You have to track your progress. You have to pay attention to how you're speaking every day and be honest about where you're getting better and where you're falling short. Speaking with clarity, confidence and impact doesn't happen by accident. It happens through daily work, through small adjustments, through consistent reflection. That's how real growth happens. Not by trying once in a while, but by making it part of your life. You don't need a complicated system. You don't need to write long journals or fill out worksheets. You just need a few honest minutes each day to ask yourself, did I speak with purpose today? Did I say what I meant? Did I hold myself steady in the moments that counted? That's it. But you have to do it every day. Not once a week. Not once a month. Every day. The reason tracking matters is because most people forget their progress. They don't notice when they improve, so they think nothing is changing. But something is changing. Every conversation is teaching you something. Every moment you speak up when it's uncomfortable, every time you catch yourself pausing before responding, every word you shape with care, that's progress. But if you don't track it, you lose sight of it. And if you lose sight of it, you stop growing. Tracking helps you stay motivated. It gives you proof. You can look back and see how far you've come. You remember how nervous you used to feel, how disorganized your words were, how often you hesitated. And then you see that today, you stood your ground. You spoke up. You explained something clearly. You kept your pace steady. That's progress. That's real development. And you build that by being intentional with your practice. When you speak with intention, everything changes. You don't just say words, you direct them. You guide the conversation. You think before you talk, not to be perfect, but to be real. You stop reacting. You start responding. And your voice gains power, not because it's loud, but because it's deliberate. People hear that. They trust it. They feel like you're not wasting their time. You're bringing something real into the space. Every day is a chance to train. A short conversation, a simple message, a phone call. These aren't small things, they're your training ground. If you treat them like practice, you'll improve fast. If you treat them like nothing, you'll stay stuck. Intention means you show up to every interaction with the mindset of growth. You don't just want to talk. You want to connect. You want to be clear. You want to speak in a way that matters. It also means you stop repeating weak habits. You stop using filler words just to fill space. You stop trailing off at the end of your sentences. You stop mumbling your thoughts and hoping people will figure out what you meant.
Instead, you take a second. You breathe. You deliver your words like you mean them. That's what builds presence. That's what builds respect. Tracking your daily effort also shows you patterns. You start to see where you shine and where you struggle. Maybe you speak well with close friends, but you shrink in formal settings. Maybe you're confident when you're talking about familiar topics, but you freeze when the subject changes. This kind of awareness is gold. It gives you clear targets. It helps you know what to practice next. You don't need anyone else to give you permission to improve. You just need to make a decision that your voice matters, that your words carry weight, and that it's your job to take responsibility for how you use them. This is your skill to build. And every day, you're either getting sharper or slipping backward. There's no neutral. There's no standing still, growth, or drift. That's the choice. Make a habit of checking in with yourself every night, just for a minute. Ask, what did I do well today with my voice? What moment made me proud? What can I do better tomorrow? These small reflections build consistency. They keep you focused. They turn communication into a craft, not just a reaction. And that mindset separates people who lead from people who wait to be led. When you speak with intention, people feel it. Your tone is calmer. Your rhythm is more natural. Your words are stronger. Not because you're trying to impress, but because you're showing up with presence. You're not rushing to speak. You're not afraid of silence. You're not trying to prove anything. You're just here, steady and clear. You'll notice that the more intentional you become, the more you enjoy speaking. It's no longer something you fear. It's something you use, something you sharpen, something that gives you confidence, and people respond to that energy. They pay closer attention. They open up more. They follow your lead. Progress doesn't need to be dramatic. It just needs to be consistent. Maybe today you caught yourself before using a weak word. Maybe yesterday you kept your pace more steady. Maybe tomorrow you'll hold eye contact longer while speaking. These are small wins, but they add up fast. They create real momentum. And the more momentum you have, the easier it becomes to stay on track. Be honest in your tracking. Don't just write down the good parts. Own the moments where you slipped, where you rushed, where you held back. That honesty builds self-respect. It reminds you that this journey isn't about perfection. It's about growth. It's about showing up better than you did yesterday, even if it's just by 1%. Intention also means setting goals. Simple, daily goals. Maybe today, your goal is to speak without interrupting. Maybe tomorrow your goal is to explain your opinion in 3 clear sentences. Keep it small but make it real. And once the day ends, check it off. Reflect. Adjust. Move forward. The people who master communication don't wait for luck. They build their voice. They train it. They reflect daily. They speak like their words matter. And because they do, people listen. People remember them. People trust them. That kind of influence isn't earned overnight. It's earned day by day, through simple effort, tracked with care, and guided by intention. You already have what it takes. You don't need to sound like anyone else. You don't need to copy someone else's style. You just need to do the work. Show up daily. Speak clearly. Speak honestly. Track your growth. Notice the small shifts. Celebrate the wins. Learn from the misses. And most of all, keep going. Every day you speak with intention, you're getting stronger. Every day you track your progress, you're building a voice that reflects the best version of you. That's how change happens. not in one big moment, but in 1,000 quiet choices to get better. One word at a time, one day at a time,